Dan James, it is such an honor to interview you here today at Can-Am All Breeds Equine Expo. We know that you travel a lot and have been extremely busy, so we'd like to welcome you here to our great city of Toronto, Ontario.
Well, thanks, mate. It's good to be here, except that it's bloody cold.
It is, isn't it? So you were here at Can-Am for the weekend, starring in the evening extravaganza shows. You are also teaching clinics. We understand that you are an internationally known horse entertainer and trainer of Double Dan Horsemanship. Can you share with our viewers and those here at Can-Am what we can expect to see this weekend?
Yeah, so the stuff that we've brought to share with the people here up in Can-Am is a lot of it is going to be based around the Liberty horse, work. Dan steers myself, my partner in Double Dan Horsemanship. The part in our business in which that we have, succeeded, or that we're still developing, depending on how that you look at it, is particularly working with the art of Liberty horses. And that kind of, goes hand in hand with horsemanship, because to be good at any of the disciplines in the horse industry, it requires the same amount of time and talent and different pieces to help bring that all together.
Absolutely, and we understand that your mission is to help create well-rounded horses that are able to go on to do any discipline or job to achieve that perfect equine relationship. Can you elaborate on how you train these horses to become well-rounded and the methods that you use?
So I believe that one of the most important things for ourselves and our horses is our education. The reason I look at that, like it says in the Bible, like people die for the lack of knowledge. And our horses, particularly in today's age, we had the transition of when, machines, whether it be in warfare or on the farm, came into play, and we saw hundreds of horses go to slaughter because of no longer having a purpose or a use. I believe that with today and the society in which that we live in, it is paramount more than ever for those horses to have that education, because it's not the horse that somebody's going to pay, a reasonable amount of money for, that is well behaved, that is easy to be around, that kids can ride, that people can hop on and go for a joyride on. They're in a pretty good standing. But you look at the horse that bites, bucks, rears, takes off, maybe doesn't have any education, never been caught before. He's always sort of pushing the limits of, is he going to be the next one at a kill pen or to, be abandoned? So taking that into mind, I think that our job as horsemen, and particularly coming up in that field, that we need to not only educate our own horses, but try to help to educate the general public, the people that are maybe sitting on the fence on this, as well as horse owners, to really take on the responsibility of teaching and training their horses, so that those horses are ensured to have a long life that they're taken care of.
Absolutely. You and your partner Dan Steers have been crowd favorites in the opening ceremonies of the World Equestrian Games, Australia's Got Talent, Australian National Cutting Horse Futurities, Equine Affair, and many others. What does it take and what does it feel like to be one of the hottest selling equine acts in the industry?
Well, mate, I think that's a pretty kind compliment. We've never really thought of ourselves in that manner. I think that probably the proudest that I am as a horseman is when I have that opportunity to go out there and show people what is actually really achievable. My horses that I have now, I think I have probably one of the strongest group of horses that I would feel proud to go out and to demonstrate to anybody, whether that be in the lines of Liberty work, some basic to classical type dressage stuff, some reining work. These horses, I believe, are a reflection of both their good and their bad habits of what we have.
So, Dan, you've had and continue to have an extremely successful equestrian career, including your win of the Way of the Horse at Equitana Asia Pacific and your Road to the Horse champion for Team Australia. You also won the main event Trainers Challenge in Chilliwack, BC, placing third in the Mustang Million, and were known as a fan favorite. You won the Kentucky Gold Cup reigning freestyle champion, as well as the Quarter Horse Congress Free Champion, Style Free Champion. What would you say about your training program that has allowed you to compete time and time again at such a high level?
Mate, look, when it comes to those accomplishments, I mean, again, at the end of the day, a year, 6 months, maybe already, most of those things will be forgotten. So they're things that I guess as a horseman, you want to be able to firstly get to a point where that you're happy and content with what you're doing, regardless of the outcome when it comes to the competition arena. I think the competition arena is an important part of keeping yourself sharp, of continuing to try to learn. So the competition has to be more than just about the awards or the people that that enjoy that. Now look, is it nice that on one day when everything aligns and it comes together to be rewarded for that? Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's a competitive spirit in both Dan Steers and myself. So, I think you've got to keep it kind of like into perspective of doing that. So when it comes to the part of like, well, how do what we do on a day-to-day basis contribute to some of those successes? It firstly has to come from a place, because so many people ask me the question, they say, what does this take? The first thing that it has to take is that you got to love the horse. And as corny as that is, on the days that you're broken down on the side of the road, you don't have enough money to put into the fuel tank, what's going to keep you there? Was it because of the glory and the money that you were chasing? Most of us already know the answer to that. So it's got to come from a very core deep foundation as to what drives you as a person or as a horseman to succeed in this. All of the people that I look up to in the horse industry have failed more times than I have. And I say that because I've still got so many more times that I'm going to step out there and put myself out there that it's not going to work out on that day.
Right. So of all your times in the ring, what has been one of the most memorable, important moments to you, and why?
All the times, many different occasions that we've spent in the ring, either training or competing. Why have some of those in particular been memorable? Look, again, it's probably the days that nobody's around, nobody gets to see it, and that light bulb moment happens for that horse. That doesn't get old. In terms of competition, there's been days that we've had recently, Road to the Horse this year, that I thought that my colts on that particular day did the best that they could possibly do. Were they rewarded for it? No. But there's been times that I've gone to that ring and been rewarded for it for what I didn't think I deserved. I know some of the moments in the freestyle reining. Probably the first one that we did, that was a pretty special time, to be a part of that event, and in that moment, again, things aligned for us. It's hard to put maybe one above the other or vice versa. I think there's not one particular one that comes into mind.
Right. So is there any mentors that you have both in and outside of the equestrian industry?
Yeah, as far as mentors go, I mean, look, the first people that I really looked up to were my mum and dad in terms of their work ethic. They instilled into us, like, coming from and having, very little, about getting up every day and going to work. And I think that was a very, very important lesson to learn. In terms of other horsemen and women that I have really inspired to be like and to take stuff away from, would be people, and it's kind of a long list. Heath Harris, who's a movie horse trainer that I work with in Australia. A lot of people would recognise him if they watched the Man from Snowy River movies, with the guy going over the log, jumping, running down the hill. That was Heath. Josh Lyons, Craig Johnson, Brendan Brandt, Rob Huddleton, there's just a few to name. Clayton Fredericks, who's another Olympic Australian event rider. There's been a lot of people over the years that have sort of given time to me. Probably, and most recently, Chris Cox. I think that there'll be a time come in my lifetime where people will say, will try to claim or get to say, I got to ride with Chris. And I think that'll be a pretty awesome deal.
That's pretty special. So, have you encountered any setbacks over the years that made you question whether you wanted to continue? And if so, how did you persevere?
Sure. Setbacks you can find them in multiple different ways, whether it be physical injuries. I've certainly had my fair share of them. There's a long list of those that have taken place. Some have been much more serious than others, from being drugged to nearly losing my leg to, I think 11 concussions and broken most bones. That part probably isn't quite as tough to overcome as the days that you're out there trying to put this together and you're either not making it in terms of it being financial. It's a tough deal. I have met and seen many good horsemen and horsewomen that have not succeeded and stayed in this business, not because of their lack of horsemanship, but their lack of business. Being a horseman in this is first and foremost, but if you don't have a business mind and prepared to take care of your own business, that also won't work. I've said multiple times, if there had been a bridge built back home to Australia, would have I packed up my horses, put them on the truck and driven home? Absolutely. But literally for me, when it all comes down to it, I believe that God's plan for me right now is to be doing what I'm doing, which is getting to work horses and share that love of the horse with people, and ultimately for people to know, and the bigger plan, the bigger picture of this is for them to know about the good news. So, without that, I wouldn't be living for a purpose, I'd be living for myself, and the more that I can take myself out of that, I think that the more successful that this will be.
Absolutely, and sharing that passion is what we need, and that knowledge, like you said, that education. How important of a role has physical activity and nutrition played in your success and ability to perform as an equestrian?
When it comes down to the physical attributes and taking care of yourself and being in a good shape, it amazes me that in all the different sports out there, how often that equestrians are the most unfit people in the athlete world. It is seriously scary. I hold a very, very high regard on that. I think that if I expect my horses to perform physically, to do a job, that I have to be as equally disciplined and willing to do the same. The nutrition probably hasn't been something that I held as much regard in an early part of my career as I do now. The more that I learn, and I guess the older you get, the more you kind of start to hold those type of values when it comes down to nutrition. In terms of the physical part of it, I think that for my roles especially, whether it be cardio, whether it be being able to have the strength and the speed, and that to me is an absolute must. And I think that in the equestrian life and people that are involved in horses, if you went to any other sport, they would tell you that you're either out of shape, too big, too small, too wide, too tall, whatever it might be, that you either you fit this deal or you don't, or you need to make sacrifice and discipline in order to be able to make it happen.
Okay, so I have another question. What are the benefits of working with your horse on the ground?
Benefits of working with your horse on the ground. First and foremost, it's one of the first forms of communication to our horse. Our body language, learning not only what that horse's is, but for you to be able to start thinking about what your body language is in conjunction, or how it affects your horse. From there, that working on the ground is also going to play a large role into your own conditioning in preparing your horse to ride.
Absolutely. So Dan, how would you summarize your state of mind prior to a big competition?
My state of mind prior to a big competition, again, I guess for me it changes a little bit. Competition to competition. I have events that I'm able to go into where I know that I've done all that I've been able to do to prepare to be at this competition and to do a good job. I have competitions that I've been to where I'm like, I know that I'm not as prepared for this event as what I could be or what I should have been. And it then kind of, you've got to come to the conclusion of, well, am I prepared just to ride out here and to hang it all out and be 90 or nothing, or am I prepared to go out here and play it safe? So for me, there's not just one mindset that I have going into that.
So have you had any or experienced any anxieties while riding? And if so, how did you cope?
I guess as far as the anxiety of riding, like what kind of brings that to you. It's either being late, not being prepared. Like if you're prepared, you're on time, and you've kind of like got this mapped out, you shouldn't have any anxiety. But it's in the times that you're like, well, I'm not sure what my horse is going to do here. I'm not sure if he's going to turn to the left. I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to pick up that canter lead. I'm not sure if he's going to run off on me. So that's why I say that it's that preparation that you're looking for before stepping out there. Now, in terms of the competition or arena itself, have I walked out there and particularly early on thought about, well, what's everybody going to think? You've got to learn to get past that, and the only thing that I think that helps people get past that is by continually stepping out there.
Absolutely. So, Dan, I want to ask you, what do you think of the message that we're trying to convey through the Be Fit, Ride Strong lifestyle?
I think that it's an important message that you guys are trying to convey and to let people know about that is not spoken about enough often, and that people really haven't grasped. I mean, so many times they'll look for so many different excuses instead of looking at themselves, and it's definitely by far time that people start to take a look at themselves as an athlete coming into this. It's by far time that people start looking at their own health, and I'm not saying that you have to be a healthy person to go out and ride a horse. I'm saying if you have things there that you can do though, and be a little bit more self-disciplined about, it's time to step up. If you expect your horse to be the best when he goes out there, expect the same from yourself.
Absolutely. Finally, Dan, it has been a real pleasure speaking with you here today. We want to thank you so much for your time, and we look forward to seeing you in action this weekend.
Sounds good, mate. Thanks.